I think you have to understand that when you price yourself, it's 100% made up. Every single price you hear everywhere is 100% made up, and that's just super important. It's just that you can put whatever price you make up, you can put that in relation to the perceived value that your prospect is getting. If I work with a brand that has a turnover of 50 million a year and I tell them, hey, I will get you an additional 5 million and I will charge 1 million for that, they will be, of course, here's your money. It doesn't make a difference. It's all out of thin air, just has to be in relation to the perceived value that they're getting.
Hello and welcome to the Ronny Leber Show, where every week we bring you fascinating guests with inspiring stories of success and overcoming obstacles from the worlds of sports, business, and entertainment. To support this channel, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and hit the like button so that we can deliver you the best content possible.
He's a marketing genius. With a team of 41 people, he is the mastermind behind industry-leading brands, online stores like Alex Hormozi, the Udi, and many more. He's a thought leader in the online marketing field and passionate about psychology. Joining us live from Dubai, I'm happy to have him on the show. Please welcome, here is Carl Weische.
Thank you so much for having me, Ronny. I'm super excited to be recording this episode with you today.
Oh yeah, I'm also excited to have you here. And you're going to learn a lot today about becoming an entrepreneur, about chasing your dreams and fulfilling your dreams, about building a brand, how to get somebody to buy, and simply just to really go after what you really want. But before we get into all of that, you are now at a tender age of almost 25, and you started out when you were 16. And when you look at your life today and think back at the journey in the last almost 10 years, was that what you had imagined as a kid, or was it something else that you had in mind?
Really interesting question. So initially, I had all of these idols like Tony Robbins, right? Where I would watch them on YouTube or where I would read them books. And I just had in mind like this vision of somehow being an entrepreneur, somehow traveling the world and having freedom. I would be lying if I would be saying that the lifestyle that I'm living right now is exactly what I envisioned back then, right? In terms of like the details and specifics, but generally in terms of me being able to decide what I want to do and who I want to be around with, and every day like enjoying what I do and being passionate about this. This is kind of what I had in mind back then when I just started out with personal development and getting myself into this whole field of entrepreneurship. But yeah, over the years, I tried out many different things, right? And I just kept like iterating and experimenting in terms of what I like and what I don't like and what I'm good at and what I'm not so good at. And now almost 8 to 9 years later from when I initially started doing my first steps in this whole world of entrepreneurships, this is where I'm at today. I'm pretty happy with the current situation and how everything turned out, right? So I'm super happy about that. But back then, I would say it's way bigger and it's way more of what I back then thought would be possible, right? So I'm really thankful for that, and I also like to see it as a lesson for me. Like there's always more you can achieve, and like there's nothing impossible to reach, right? Because like back then when I was 15, 16, I was stuck in school and I didn't really know what to do. And
before we get into the struggles here, let's just take a little step back also, because you said that you had inspiration or you got inspiration from Tony Robbins and so on, and you were 15, 16 years old. But what initially lit the spark? Like, how did you get into that world of personal development? And what was it before that you imagined? Because I'm sure when you were 7, 8 years old, you probably didn't imagine I'm going to be an online marketer. I'm going to be going into personal development, because usually you have no idea what this actually is. So what was it before the dream? And then how did that spark develop into really getting into personal development? And what was the drive to really discover who you are inside and what you're made of?
Yeah, good question. So initially what sparked the drive and curiosity was that when I was around 14, 15 years old, I was really kind of stuck in school. I didn't have any friends and I didn't understand like what life was about. And I didn't manage to succeed in this system or like this education stream of school, right? So for like 1 or 2 years, I was going through like a lot of pain and a lot of like dark moments where I just like didn't understand what I should do in life, right? Like who should I become, or how can I even become somebody and decide what I want to do. So that kind of initially created the spark where I somehow must have ended up on Google or YouTube looking for like motivational videos or like psychology videos or something like that. I think that's kind of how I started getting into this whole rabbit hole of Tony Robbins. And that initially had the spark because then I just started like watching all of these videos, all of the seminars, ordered the book, started reading the book, like How to Awaken the Giant Within. And that really, really opened my mind to like the realm of what's possible and what you can do in life. And that created this first initial drive of, hey, like you can decide who you want to be in life and you can work towards that and achieve that. And that gave me like a really strong hope where I was like, okay, I'm fine with this. I don't have to succeed like in this education or school system. I can become an entrepreneur. I can take charge of my life and just like decide the lifestyle that I want to build and then work towards that. So that's what initially around the age of 15, 16 started creating this huge like fire in me.
And that's fascinating because hand in hand with that actually is tied that you started when you were 16 years old, your first business, your first entrepreneurial venture, so to say. What was it and how was that in the beginning for you? And what did your parents say about that?
Good question. It's one of my favorite stories because back then there was a huge hype around limited sneakers and limited clothes. Like, I don't know if you remember these like Yeezy Boosts and all of these limited sneakers that like Adidas and Nike would release. So what I would do back then is I would buy them on the day of the release. I would somehow get my hands off them with like crazy techniques, like using 10 devices or whatnot. And then I would buy them, get them on the release day, and then resell them on eBay afterwards for like double or triple the price. So that was the first online business that I had of like buying products and then reselling them for a higher price. And I was super hyped about it because I would buy a product while I was still in school, like in a lunch break or something. And then at the same evening, I would have sold it for twice the price. And then I came down to my parents. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I bought this t-shirt for $60 and now I already sold it for $110. So I made like $50 and it didn't even arrive here yet. And I was just like fascinated by what's possible online, like what you can do online, right? Without leaving your bedroom, basically. And for them, it took them a long time to understand kind of like, what am I doing? Is it legal? Like, why is he making money and all of that? But yeah, in the beginning, they were confused. So it took me a long time to kind of like educate them or just like keep showing them what's happening there, like what's possible. So that was really interesting. And that was the first thing that I do at 16, like buying and reselling limited sneakers, limited clothing. And then 2-3 years later, when I started
before we get
studying,
just before we get into the next thing, did you come from a family of entrepreneur, like from an entrepreneurial family, or were your parents were they employees, or how was that? Like because of the mindset, it's a very different mindset that you need to bring in order to be an entrepreneur. Or if you just have your paycheck every month, which there is no right or wrong, it's just a different mindset here.
So they are employees. So my dad is working as a sound engineer, right? So he's working in like a studio, and my mom is working in insurance company as HR. So they were both kind of employees, and then it was a bit difficult when I was 16 and I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and then that was like completely crazy for them because my brother always wanted to become a doctor, right? So he would be like completely in line with what they had envisioned, and I would be completely outside of that with like a completely crazy idea.
Was it something for you that bothered you, or did you just know, okay, I'm different, I'm just gonna follow my path, and or how did you blend out what somebody else expected of you?
I wouldn't say it bothered me because I was so convinced and so certain in this idea that I can achieve it. So it was more of like I take my parents by the hand because I could understand that it has to be weird for them, right? Because they also didn't grow up with technology or smartphones the way that we did, for example. So like this whole internet thing is just from the basic really weird for them, right? And then that I now as a 16-year-old tell them, hey mom, hey dad, I want to become an entrepreneur. I'm doing some crazy stuff on the internet. I'm selling products online or whatever. it took me some time to like educate them on it, but I was always so hyped and so excited and so passionate about it that at some point they started understanding, okay, like he can actually do this and he can actually make a living off of that.
Wow, that's fascinating, because it's really this strong passion that you had, and that was, I guess, also the driver in the beginning to really move you forward, and to also, because in the beginning, of course, you said like, oh wow, I made $50 and so on, and of course, when you start out, $50, especially as a 16-year-old kid, without, and back then it's more, I guess, more like a game. It's not like, it doesn't feel like work because it's so exciting. It's like, wow, I'm really making money. And so you did this for a few years, and at some point, I guess you saw that, well, this concept is great, but it's not really scalable, is it? Or why did you then move to Amazon FBA, right?
Yeah. So basically, I did this whole thing of buying and selling sneakers online from the age of 16 to 17. And then there was a point where the market became too saturated and too many people started buying the product to sell it and not to wear it themselves. So it just became oversaturated. So then at 17, I kind of stopped that. And then I just focused on finishing my high school diploma. And then I was at the point again where I was like, okay, damn, I had this initial business run, but now I just finished school and now I don't know again what to do. So,
and just a second, Carl, actually, because when you said that it dried out, and that oftentimes happens, you find something that's working. You find, oh, I found the success formula. This is really great. And then there comes a point when it's not working anymore. How was that moment for you? Was it something frustrated? Was it something, or did you even maybe lose money because you now had all those sneakers and nobody was buying it, or how was that?
So for me, fortunately, I got out of a point kind of at the beginning of the saturation. So I sold everything. I made a good amount of money. Of course, it was frustrating in the beginning, but then I quickly accepted the fate of I have to find something different, right? Because I didn't want to spend my time and energy just like worrying or being angry, right? I was happy that I could do it for like those 1.5 to 2 years. And I was still in this like excitement that it's possible and that I just have to find something new.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then you had your high school diploma, you graduated from high school, and what happened next?
So after graduating from high school, I was at this point where I didn't know what to do. And my parents were kind of like pressurizing me a bit because they were like, you gotta find something, you gotta start your studies or like start working or something. So I went to New Zealand for a year abroad, just to kind of do like a work and travel lifestyle for a year abroad in New Zealand. Then I came back again, didn't know what to do. And then I just started studying just to kind of buy myself some time. And then in the first semester of my studies, I then started with the Amazon FBA business because I knew I had to find something, and it has to be something with like selling products online, because I knew that it works. And I also knew that I'm not studying because I want to get a bachelor, but just to get some time. So I knew I had like 3 years kind of where I could achieve something, so that after finishing my studies, I don't have to work as an employee, but I can be self-employed.
Oh, so basically the study time was already the building up time, so to say. But before we get into the Amazon FBA, and also for somebody who doesn't know what it is, we're gonna also explain that. You went to a year abroad, and also I went to high school in the US when I was 16. So you were a bit older. You were 18, 19 years old, I guess, something like that, when you went to New Zealand for a year. What were your learnings out of this 1 year abroad? And is this something that you would recommend to other people as well?
I would highly recommend it to everybody listening. It was by far the best time I had in my whole life, from the experiences I made and the people I met. I still have a lot of good friends from that time, which is now 6-7 years ago. The time was super interesting because it was my first time where I had to take charge of my life in terms of where do I live, how do I make money, how do I find food, how do I cook, how do I clean, and everything. Because before that I was just living with my parents. So I basically got to New Zealand, and I did a lot of intention setting, right? So in the first week, I kind of wrote down a to-do list in terms of stuff that I want to learn and stuff that I want to experience. And one of the points that I wrote down was, I want to experience hard physical labor so that I know what it feels like and I never have to do it again afterwards. So that was one of the points that I did there. And then I did some crazy jobs. I worked on like a hay field. I worked on a vineyard. I worked as a garbage man. I worked as I don't know how to call it, like a chicken man, like catching chickens on a chicken farm, like crazy physical jobs. But that was super interesting to make that experience and to know what it is to actually work hard physically and be exhausted.
I think that's a fascinating concept. Also for me, one of the things that you actually touched on was to really go out there and to take charge of your own life. Because before that, you're always with your parents. And when I was 16, I was suddenly in the US. And basically, it was also for me a time to discover myself, to discover who I really am and what my personality is really about. Because before that, you oftentimes get pressured by your peers, by your friends to be in a certain way that they expect you to be. You have all those expectations from friends, from parents, from family. And suddenly there is nothing. And suddenly you can just be whoever you want to be. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to experiment with myself for 10 months now and let's see what comes out of it. And if people, I can see the reaction of people. If they like it, great. If they do not like it, I'm out of here in 10 months. So it's okay. and so I really enjoyed that process. And also what you were saying with doing something that you know afterwards, that gives you the leverage actually, that this is not what you want to do, is also what I experienced when I was 15 years old. My first internship, so to say, in summer, in the school vacation, I was working at a supermarket, and I wouldn't call it hard physical labor, but it's not something that I really want to go after. And so I remember after that 1 month of working, I had my best year in school ever because I was so motivated, because I knew I do not want to end up there. So that's fascinating. All right, so great. So take us with you. Amazon FBA during your studies. What is Amazon FBA, and what does it do? I mean, everybody knows Amazon, but what is Amazon FBA?
Yeah. So basically, Amazon has a program where it allows you to put your own products on their platform to sell it on Amazon, right? So that's Amazon FBA means fulfilled by Amazon, right? FBA. So you can basically, for example, order 1,000 cups of coffee, put your branding on it, send it to Amazon, and they will put it online for you. And then you can sell the products with Amazon, and then you do the marketing, right? So that's what we did. We basically bought phone accessories like chargers, phone cases, and all of that stuff, and put it on Amazon. And that's what we did. So we kind of tried building an e-commerce brand, so to speak. So we put them on Amazon.
So you bought the stuff first, you put your branding on it, and then you put it on Amazon. Is that correct? Like you got the physical shipments to you put something on it, and you put it out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And how? I mean, okay, that's a concept that sounds fascinating. And then at the same time, you're thinking, well, okay, I mean, I'm gonna buy this stuff, and then I'm gonna try to sell it for more money than I bought it for because that's the whole point of it. So how do you do that?
So the whole concept is, right, so let's say, for example, I buy this cup of coffee for like $2. I buy 1,000 of them, right? So now I have 1,000 cups of coffee, and then I put them on Amazon for like $10, right? Which would give me, for every sale that I make on Amazon, I would get $8 from Amazon. So I have 1,000 products that would leave me at $8,000. The thing is, now I have to do marketing, right? So I have to, from Amazon, get people to buy my product. So I have to spend money on Amazon so that Amazon shows my product to a certain amount of people so that then they buy the product. So for example, I pay $3 per person buying my product, right? So I spend money on Amazon so that they push people to my product and then the people buy the product. So for example, now I sold 1,000 products at $10,000 total. I paid $2,000 for the product physicals themselves, and then I paid $3,000 for marketing spend, right? And now I'm left with $5,000 margin for me. And then what I would do is I would take that 5,000 and now buy more products, right? Like a bigger amount of products, and then again market them on Amazon. So that's basically the whole concept of selling products on Amazon.
And you also mentioned about building a brand, because if it's just a generic cup, it's not really a brand, or it's very it's a commodity. It's very exchangeable. So how does that?
Yeah.
How did you also build a brand around that along the way?
Good question. So basically, we were selling wireless chargers, right? Do you remember like when they brought out the iPhone 8, the iPhone 10, and you could now like lay them on a surface and it would
Yeah,
charge without
induction.
you having to plug a cable? Exactly. So we basically sold those chargers. They were of like a nice wooden material, and you could just put your phone on it. And the brand we called wireless charging, right? In Germany, of course, but in English it will translate to wireless charging. So we named it wireless charging. We built a logo for it. We built a nice website and online store for it. We did a lot of photo shoots with us as the founders, with the product, and like on a night table at like a desktop, and we just kind of created this whole visual experience around the product so it feels like a brand for the customer. So that's what we did, and then we put all of those pictures on Amazon and on the online store, and then we've also created an Instagram, so we were on social media with all of those pictures and videos from us as the founders explaining the brand story and the product. So that's basically everything that we kind of built to make it like a really unique product and unique brand experience for the customer.
That's very brilliant, because actually you did not create the stuff. Where did you buy it from? Did you also buy it on Amazon, or did you buy it on Alibaba, or where did you buy it?
So we would go on Alibaba, and then we would directly contact the producers, right? And then we would talk to them, and then we would create kind of our own branding, our own packaging and everything, so that it's different from all of the products you find on Alibaba or Amazon. And then we would buy, for example, the first time we bought 200 products, then we bought 1,000 products, then we bought like 2,000, 3,000 products, and then we just kind of kept a bit changing the product, the branding, what we would put inside, how it looks, how the unboxing experience is for the user and everything. But yeah, so we went on Alibaba, we sourced the product, and we created kind of like our own branding and feel to it. But we didn't invent the product. We mostly did like the marketing and the idea around how to like package it and stuff. But we didn't invent the technology. We didn't invent like how to build the product or whatnot.
And that's beautiful that you're stating that, because that's oftentimes when somebody thinks about that, and they are maybe not from this world, they think they have to invent something, they need to create something new. But actually, it's just taking something that's already out there, having an idea, and what you actually did is you created a different story around it. Is that correct? You built a story, because people, when they bought it, they didn't just buy the wireless charger. They bought the story, they bought the brand.
Yeah.
The brand is nothing else than the story that you actually created, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically the emotion that we transport with the images and the text, right? So that's kind of what we sold them, and that's why they bought the product, because they like the look and feel, and that they like the emotion, right? We didn't say this is a wireless charger, go and charge your phone, and we put it on like a white background. We put it in like a nice setting and a nice house on like a nice wooden table, and then we said, imagine sitting down on your desk and you have all of these annoying cables, right? That's the past. Now welcome to the future. You can just put your iPhone on this wireless charger. Somebody calls you while you're working. You can pick it up really easily afterwards, put it down again, so it continues charging. It looks good. It has a nice aesthetic. And we would kind of create this whole story around why they should buy the product and what it's going to do for them.
Wow, that's fascinating. And thinking about that, even in today's day and age, it becomes even more easier, because you can use AI. You can use, for example, ChatGPT to help you to create all of that story or branding or marketing and so on. But I think we're going to get into that a little bit later. Also, how because I'm sure you're using AI today as well to make your work easier, and to piggyback on the storytelling aspect, because when you mentioned before Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins is not just the biggest personality or the biggest personal brand in terms of personal development that is out there in the world. But when you go and listen to Tony Robbins, and there are for sure also other great people who are good at creating personal change inside of you. And let's say you go to your local personal development guy and go to a seminar, and he tells you maybe well, I worked with this musician and now he got a bit better in doing this and that. You go to Tony Robbins and I worked with Michael Jackson. And or I worked with the head of this company. And then you go to Tony Robbins, I worked with all the living presidents of the United States and so on. So it's basically immediately you are making a picture in your mind. And of course, Michael Jackson, president of the US, and so on. It's all a very, very big thing that you're imagining, which means that the brand also amplifies. And you're thinking, dude, that guy has to be amazing if he's working with all of them. And now I'm sitting here and I can profit for that as well. So it's basically all about also the storytelling is helping you to build the brand.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like storytelling is a huge aspect because we as humans, we've used storytelling for like thousands of years, right? Before there was books or before there was online media, we would just tell stories all day long to kind of transport certain learnings or certain sharing. So that's why I feel like if you master the art of storytelling and you can captivate people's attention, you can really achieve a lot.
Wow. And you said you scaled that business up. That means you bought more and more and more of those cups in Amazon FBA, and then you also went to drop shipping. Or what was the next journey, and why did you stop with the cups?
So basically, we did the Amazon FBA and the Shopify dropshipping, which was all of like the same products and same brand for around 1.5 to 2 years. And I've met my now business partner during that time period because he was a freelancer for the service that we now do with the agency, right? So we started to getting to know each other, and then we would work together on the brand that we had back then. And I really liked that. And I think over like this whole time period, we sold around like 6,000, 7,000 products ish. And what happened on Amazon was that during Q4, which is the biggest season of the year, mid Q4 at like the peak, we sold out on Amazon, and that completely crashed our business because Amazon gives you a penalty if you sell out because they want to give every customer a great experience. So when they go on your product page and your product is sold out, you have a bad experience, right? So they will completely take you off Amazon, shut you down and stuff. So that's what happened to us. So we completely lost momentum. We lost a lot of money with that because we didn't know how to anticipate that back then. So me in that time period, losing that momentum and kind of crashing that. And then also meeting Lars, right, who was the freelancer back then, put me in this position where I was like, okay, I can transition from the e-commerce business to the freelancing business. And it just made a lot of sense back then to do that, which is why around mid 2020 I did that transition from running the e-commerce business to doing the service that he was doing back then.
So what service was that? Because freelancing, of course, is a generic term for everybody that is doing something for somebody else. Basically, it can be a consultant, it can be an event host, and so on. And there are all kinds of freelancers. But what kind of freelancing did you do specifically?
So he had this whole background around consumer psychology, so basically how people buy online, and he also did the whole NLP training, right? Neuro Listening Programming. So he did the NLP practitioner, master, and coach. He was working as a coach, and then he studied consumer psychology, and then he got back into this field of e-commerce. And basically, the freelance service back then was optimizing online stores, right? So basically building an online store with a nice design, nice copywriting, nice product pages so that it would sell a lot, right? So that the online store has a nice storytelling, it looks good for the target audience, it resonates with the customers, and it's really convincing in terms of how it's built and how it's structured, using this understanding of how do people buy, what's the human psychology, what goes through their mind, and kind of how can we persuade them into buying the product. So there was the service we offered back then to either build an online store from scratch or to take the existing online store and bring it to the point where it sells a lot, right? Where it's like really convincing, it looks good, and everything just makes sense for the customer to then buy on the online store.
So basically, it's about getting people to buy or getting people to buy more in a way. And since you've also been in that field now, and it is very much tied to person psychology as well, and to just as a generic question, why do people buy?
A really good question. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to answer that. Basically, people buy when they feel like your product can get them from where they are to where they want to be. So basically, the way that we always like to position any offer, whether it's a product, service, whatever, is as a vehicle that transforms their life from where they are currently to where they want to be. And you can almost apply that to any product that you are selling online or any service you sell or anything that's around sales. That's the most basic, fundamental answer that I can give to why people buy.
I love that answer. I think it's a brilliant answer, and very simple, but very logical, and also absolutely makes sense. To put this in a different frame, if somebody's out there and is like, hey, I would like to pursue my own dreams, and that means also maybe you're going to be a freelancer or wherever you want to sell your services. It can also be as an agency. You also need to sell yourself. And some people or many people are way easier in selling a product that is not themselves than selling themselves. So also piggybacking on what you just said, how do you sell your services? How do you sell yourself?
A good question. So the most important aspect for selling yourself is that you need a certainty, right? You need to be convinced of yourself, because if you don't believe in it, you will not create the certainty in somebody else to believe in you, right? So that's the basis. You need to have the certainty. The best way to achieve the certainty is to do that for free a couple of times, so that you have the case study and the proof that what you do actually works. And with those, let's say you work for 3 clients for free, you achieve the certainty that your service, your freelancing will get them results, and then you take that certainty and then you get into a sales call, for example, and then it's way easier to convince your prospect that your service actually works, because otherwise it's just out of thin air, whatever, and then your prospect will see or subconsciously understand that you're not convinced of yourself and then not buy, right? Because it's you either self-certain or you're not, right? Like this, it's a certain energy that you transport, and you want to be 100% self-certain in yourself, your abilities, so that you can create the same certainty in your prospect to give you the money for what you have to offer.
Building up the self-confidence in a way. And also when you're saying that doing the first 2 or 3 people for free, it's also about, on the one hand, building the certainty, on the other hand, also to create case studies, as you said, and also testimonials, to have somebody like, hey, this dude really helped me. And even Russell Brunson, for example, one of the internet marketing geniuses, he said that he did his first client for free. He called him and said, hey, can I fly out to your headquarters and come there? I'm going to bring a few people, and we're going to build all of your marketing material online, and we'll do it for free. And they were, well, what's the catch? Like, no, we want to do this because I want to see if it works, and if I can provide value, then perfect. You have nothing to lose. And like, all right, okay, let's do it. And obviously, it worked, and it was a fantastic thing also for the company. All right, so switching from that, one more thing actually I wanted to pick up on that also is pricing, because normally when you're starting out, that also comes with confidence, with certainty, is about how much can I charge. So how do I price myself? How do I price myself correctly without leaving too much money on the table? And also oftentimes the fear of missing out is also, or scarcity, the scarcity mindset also plays a role in that.
A good question. For me, how you price yourself comes down to 2 things. The first is basically supply and demand, and the secondly is the perceived value you can create, right? So firstly, you need a lot of demand, right? So you are in the power position and you can say what prices you charge. And secondly, the perceived value, like how much perceived value can you generate for your client. So basically, in the beginning, I would start low and then just push it up over time. And generally, the biggest learning that I've made for pricing is that every price you hear is BS, right? Every price is 100% made up. If I do a service, I can either charge $10 for it or I could charge $10,000. It's completely made up out of thin air, right? And I think you have to understand that when you price yourself, it's 100% made up. Every single price you hear everywhere is 100% made up, and that's just super important. It's just that you can put whatever price you make up, you can put that in relation to the perceived value that your prospect is getting. If I work with a brand that has a turnover of 50 million a year and I tell them, hey, I will get you an additional 5 million and I would charge 1 million for that, that will be, of course, here's your money, right? I could get them the additional 5 million and I could charge 10,000 for it, 100,000, 1 million. Like it doesn't make a difference. It's all out of thin air, just has to be in relation to the perceived value that they're getting, right? And that's what I would say is the most important thing. Initially, it can be really scary to ask for big prices. So my co-founder always told me, learn to do it with the mirror. Just tell them like it costs 1,000, it costs 2,000, and then always in like every sales call push it up a bit, and then just always ask for more, because then you always have the confidence. Okay, somebody paid me 1,000. Now I can ask for 1,500. Okay, somebody is able to pay me 1,500. Now in the next sales call I will ask for 2,000, and then you just keep playing that game and stacking. And also what I can tell you from experience is that there's no limit. It always goes higher.
And usually if you feel that there's a limit, then the limit is inside your head. Then it's something that you actually, a mental barrier that you need to overcome in order to jump to the next level. And what I loved about what you just said is it's about the perceived value. It's not about the value per se. It's about the perceived value. That means, that reminds me on Game of Thrones. I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones, but there was a conversation between Varys and between Peter Dinklage, the Tyrion Lannister, and they were talking about power, and then it was about power is what people believe that, or power is at the people what people believe that the power is. So basically, it's not about that there is a real power; it's about the perception of it. And the same with the value. It's not that there is a black and white value usually. It's really about the perception. And of course, the higher you charge, automatically already this is going to be perceived at a higher value. Because if you're charging a price and your competition is charging way lower, what's the first thing you're going to ask? If you don't know, well, okay, what are they offering that I don't know? What's the difference? Why are they charging so much more? There's got to be something that they're doing great. There's got to be something that they know that the other guys do not know. Isn't it like that as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think most of the stuff you're doing in the entrepreneurship world is made up in your head, right? It's just a perception you have. It's just how you think about it. So whether it's price, whether it's power, whether it's a certain service, it's mostly how it's perceived. And that's also the beauty of marketing anything or like sales in general. It's only about how you convey a certain message, right? It's like, how do you frame it? How do you have the storytelling? How do you have the messaging, which will make the difference of if you can charge 10,000 for a product or 100,000, right? And that's what I think is the beauty of it, because there's so much to learn, and it always goes up, right? Like you can always make it bigger. You can always achieve more. Same with the power relation, right? Like there's so many ways to build leverage or have a perceived higher power. And I think that's super interesting also from the psychology and mindset.
I absolutely agree. And now just thinking about that, when I grew up, I love to play computer games and so on, but it was before the internet. So it was in the ancient times when the dinosaurs walked the land. But anyway, no, the point about it is that at some games you kind of figure out a cheat code. Like, oh, when I do this and this or this combination, then I'm going to have unlimited money. Then I'm going to have unlimited power in the game and so on. And today's cheat code that we now have for about a year in the business world is ChatGPT or AI. I mean, AI has been around way longer, but ChatGPT now is there for 1 year, and that is incredible. So, in what way are you using AI in your business? And also, on the other hand, um, what can people? How can it help you to create a business?
Good question. I like using AI to make stuff more efficient, right? To take meeting notes, to write summaries, to write briefings, take an idea that I have and make the details for it, right? So I like to use AI in the business where it makes you more efficient. I don't like using AI for the initial traction or getting something off the ground because I don't want to rely on anybody to have the first idea. I always want to make the first idea, whether it's a certain marketing, product, angle, whatever it may be. I always want to come up with it. I can have AI write it out or like fine tune something or whatnot. But that's the area where I like it because it will help you get stuff done faster, right? Everything you can think of, it will just make it 10 times faster and easier. You can give it like a paragraph and it will write 10 pages, right? Like think of, I don't know, hey, ChatGPT, please create an offer that I can send out to a potential client. Here's the pricing, here's what the package includes, make it 10 pages. It will just help it make so much quicker, right? Or write an invoice, write an email, do this, do that. It helps you go faster through like a lot of processes. So that's where I like using AI.
Or write a contract, for example. When you have a new client, give me a 2-page, or give me a legal, just a form that I can do, and it's fascinating actually. One thing also that you mentioned was that when you met your business partner Lars, that came to mind was, of course, the aspect of networking. How important is for you building a network in your industry, whatever it is that you want to do, basically, and how do you build it?
Network is fundamental in the online marketing industry. I always like to say your network is your net worth, and that has been proven to be true over and over and over again for me personally. So generally, I cannot express how important your network is, not only for opportunities or clients or making money, but also for the mindset and building an environment of like-minded people that all strive towards achieving the same goal, right? Like the facets of the positive aspects of networking are almost infinite. It's really crazy. Like I could tell 100 stories off the top of my mind of why networking is so powerful. Basically, the way I like to approach networking is be as authentic as you can and try to lead with value, right? I don't like thinking about networking as like transaction relationships where I go to, I don't know, I say, hey, Ronny, I don't know, maybe I can give you a client, you can give me 10% commission, and maybe you can give me something and I can make $100 off of that, right? Like weird transactional stuff. I just like to take people at face value and build a genuine relationship with them. And then if over time a business opportunity appears or we do business together, that's perfect. But in the beginning, I always like to build this genuine connection with people and be as authentic as I can, because people, whether conscious or subconscious, will understand if you have a hidden agenda or what your intentions are with them, right? They just feel it. Which is why I like to go into it like really genuine and just try to connect with them as a human, like try to understand how they work, what they value, what they're all about, what their story is. And that's the biggest advice that I can give for networking, right? Just treat them as if you'd want to make a friend, right? Like if you're in a new school, a new soccer team, in the gym, like treat these people as you would want if approaching like one of those, because they are all humans at the end of the day. They all do business, but they're still humans, right? And that's the best advice for me. Like one of the best books I've read for networking is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's one of the best books specifically for that field.
Yeah, very fascinating and a great book. That's awesome, and I love that. And I think it's also really about just going out there and meeting people in your field. And in the beginning, it's really, there will be a lot of let's put it, empty miles or empty kilometers, where you're gonna meet people and just try to make friends. It's they might be able to help you at the moment, they might not, because they might be further along the way, they might be behind you, but it doesn't matter. At the end, it's really about playing the long game or playing the infinite game. So now you're an agency, you have your own agency together with a business partner, and you're working with some of the biggest online brands in the world. And one of them is also Alex Hormozi, who is in the marketing world right now one of the hottest personal brands out there. How do you get your clients? How did you get in contact? And was this also through networking, or were there other parts in play as well?
So I always get my clients via network or inbound, right? So I've really heavily invested into a personal brand over the past 2 years. So basically doing a lot of content marketing on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube and Instagram, and basically being present on all of those platforms and building like a large following in this audience. And then also doing a lot of events, right? Like we also met at an event where I did a presentation, and I just been doing like a lot of those events together with a lot of networking, together with a lot of online presence, online personal brand building. And that leads to my potential clients or prospects reaching out to me like, hey, Carl, I've seen you here and there. I've consumed your content. I want to work with you. And that was also the case for Alex Hormozi, where I was on a mastermind 1 year ago as a speaker, and then also networked with a bunch of people. And his director of marketing was in the audience of that mastermind back then. And now over 1 year consumed the content, followed me around on the socials, and now decided to book a call with me to talk about a relationship together. And that's how I get all of my clients.
Wow, that's fantastic, because of course, the value of that is that when you're getting clients inbound, that means actually that they call you because they want to work with you, means already that you have done a really good job in positioning yourself also as the guide or the person that can actually move the person forward. As you were mentioning before, what's the process of buying, to take somebody from their current state into their desired state, into where they want to go. And if they believe that you can do that, and you've proven it through different touch points over and over again, then they're coming to you at the time when it's right for them. And that's a fantastic strategy. I love that. So as we're coming to the end, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
You can achieve anything you put your mind to. You just have to sit down, you have to think about who you want to be and what you want to achieve, and then you have to start working towards that vision, and you can achieve it. It's the biggest mantra that I was living by. Everything I can see, everything that I can imagine, I can achieve. And like over and over again, I sat down, I built a vision for me, I wrote down goals, and then it just took me a certain time to achieve that. And that's the one biggest thing. And then the most fulfilling aspect of this whole journey is not like the goal reaching aspect, but who you have to become to reach those goals, and then enjoying this character and this person that you build along that journey.
Beautiful. I love that. If somebody would like to reach out to you, if somebody would like to find out more about you, where can they find you?
Anywhere basically with Carl Weische on Instagram, on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. I'm basically on all of the socials, and I'm really active there.
Fantastic. I'm going to link all of that in the show notes. Any last part or any last 30-second thought that you would like to leave us with?
No, thanks so much for having me. It's been a huge pleasure. I'm always not excited, positively surprised by how ways intersect with certain people and how you attract certain people into your life. Also with you, right? Like how we met and how we talk again now. So I'm just excited to be here today.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you very much for being here and for all your insights and advice. Give it up one more time for Carl Weische.
Thank you for sticking with us until the end. To make this content even more valuable for you, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts, and also share this video with somebody you care about who absolutely needs to see this. Thank you very much. Have an outstanding day and see you next time.